Hey y'all, and welcome back to a new video. Today we're going to be looking at a chess game which started out well, but ended up, well, So let's just get into it. I start off the game with d4, and my opponent goes d5. I play the move bishop f4, and my opponent makes an inaccuracy on move 2, and plays the move knight to c6, which is actually a line that some people go for in this position, but Game Review has been calling it inaccurate, and I like to agree why, because basically the point with black in many of these positions is to use the c-pawn to fight for the center, but after they play knight c6, well, now you can't use the c-pawn anymore. So I know theory here. I play the move e3. My opponent goes with this very interesting move f6 with the simple idea to start coming at the center of the board, and my opponent immediately falls into a trap. I play the move bishop d3, a pretty innocuous move, pretty common move in the London, and after the move e5, I am winning the game. Well, I'm winning the game because of queen h5. And already you can see that my opponent is completely lost. What's going to happen next is, after the move g6 and bishop takes g6, I will be either winning this pawn, this one over here on this square because of the bishop and the queen targeting it, or I will be taking this, taking the rook with an attack on the knight, and completely winning the game that way. Either way, the game is lost. And my opponent decides to do that. My opponent goes hg, thinks this is the best option. Queen takes h8, taking the bishop, and then I take on g8. I am simply up a bishop for a rook, and this game is already over. So I was half expecting my opponent to resign already, but the game continues. Bishop to f5 is a pretty interesting try, pretty common try. The idea is that you're simply blocking the queen from attacking the pawn on g6, which obviously makes sense. And I thought here for a little bit, trying to find what to do. But wouldn't you know it, but I already make a mistake on move 9. The first move out of the opening, I lose as well. And after the move c3, the game kind of tumbles out of control. What I have to do here is a move that I actually ended up seeing, which is this move g4, which I was thinking about playing. And obviously you can't take with the bishop because this would be a fork of the king and the bishop. And after en passant, I would take back with probably the h-pawn. My rook is coming in over here, and life is actually good. I don't care about this pawn because of actually the move rook h7, which would win the game. And what I was actually worried about was this move knight to b4, but this also doesn't work because rook h7 is just so incredibly powerful that I can sacrifice all of this, and life is good. Here you have to sacrifice the queen in order to survive. Of course, my opponent would want to do that, and I would be winning that line as well. But c3, a very common, simple solidifying move, stopping the move knight to b4, doesn't work at all. And after the move f takes e3, which is another mistake. I have to play queen h7 here and pray for a draw. I don't even understand this move. But f takes e3, I'm losing. I'm already losing the game because my opponent has too much play on my king. He goes queen e7, and I realize that this is game over because what's going to end up happening is that he's going to take this pawn. Well, okay, either I go king f2 and lose in some easy way after long castles, threatening like a million different discovered attacks, and this would be a very simple game over. I would probably resign in this position even. Or after queen e7, which is the line I ended up playing, and the move knight to e2. Sorry, I take the pawn first, and the move after takes, I go knight e2. Now this is losing for a very concrete reason, a very, very easy reason. It's the fact that after the move bishop to g4 and this move queen to c4, my queen cannot continue defending the knight, and after the move knight a5, a very, very nice move, queen a4 sees me trying, but after king f7 and queen to c2, simply the rook comes into play, and I would be losing the game again, which is again not what we want. Of course, I knew this was going to happen, and at this point, I realized that after bishop g4, I would probably play it on for a couple moves and then resign, and this would just be another game for me to feel bad about myself for, and yeah, that would be very sad. But luckily for me, my opponent doesn't do that, and instead goes with the move rook to d8, and allows white to be better once more. After the only move, queen to f3, simply offering a trade of queens, well, threatening a trade of queens, I suppose. And basically, after he would take, I would be simply up an exchange, and a pawn for that matter, and I would be winning the game. But my opponent, being 2200 almost, decides not to do that and goes queen h6 instead, which makes sense. Trying to target some stuff on the king side and make it a little bit hard for me to play, but I've gotten out of the woods and I'm back in the driver's seat and back winning the game. Now we get into a bit of a tactical battle. I go castles, which is what I have to do in this position, because if I don't castle here, my king would be stuck in the center, and then there's even like moves like this, which I'm trying to avoid with the king running out and pressure on the d file, on the e file, sorry. And I really didn't want to allow that. I thought that would be a big issue for me, so I didn't do that. I said castle the king, realizing that there's no real threat. My opponent tries to make a threat, bishop d6. Okay, I don't want to allow that, so I played the move h3, which is pretty normal. I evaluated correctly that this move doesn't ever work. Queen takes h3, and there is nothing here for black. And at this moment, I was just like, okay, well, I'm going to win the game now. My opponent has nothing, but that's still not the end of the story. And after h3, my opponent goes king d7. White is still completely winning. I find a very interesting move here. I find the move knight to g3 with the idea of trading off some of the pieces and make it into a more of an easy position for white to play. But actually in this position, my opponent finds the very interesting move, bishop takes h3. And now, this is a lot more complicated. I have to take on h3, and after queen takes h3, I have one move that's able to save the game here, which is the move queen to g2. Well, two moves, but one of them is stupid. So we're gonna be saying that there's one move, queen to g2, and basically what would end up happening is this position where at the end of the day white is up in exchange and white is winning. But I wasn't really too worried about that because I found a different option. Yes, I calculated this line correctly. I thought king to f2 didn't work because of the simple move queen to h2 check, and after I block with the queen, then this comes with a check, and my queen cannot capture due to its being pinned. We can put that on the board, king f2, here, and this move. And I was really not happy with this position after king f3. I didn't want to get into this. I thought that there was already some problems for white, and I thought that, okay, even after a queen trade, my opponent can play the move bishop h4, and now they have two passed pawns opposed to one passed pawn, and this is already a little bit dicey for white. So I don't want to allow any of this, and I thought I found a better idea, which was this very interesting move, which is just wrong. Rook to f2, yay! And we blunder again. The 8th blunder in a row. We blunder again. Rook to f2 with the idea of after bishop takes g3, I was going to play the move rook to g2. And I'm saying, okay, well, now there's a penalty against the queen. I'm winning the game. You can resign now. You can go home. I would like to get those like 7 elo points that you have for me, and I will be very, very happy. But my opponent, of course, being good at the game, finds a better option with the very nice move bishop to h2 check. And after I'm forced to go with the move king f2 because I didn't actually realize this in time when I played the move rook f2 that this move bishop h2 is very, very powerful. And after rook takes h2, I would simply be dropping the queen, and I didn't think this was possible, but what I really missed was that this came with a check, which is a little bit silly of me. I could probably have realized that, but you know, we can't win them all. It's not the end of the world. Bishop to h2, king f2 is forced, queen h4 check. Now I go king f1. Clearly the best move. Now there is no more checks in the position, and the position is actually still better for white because I'm going to be playing the move knight d2. I'm going to be bringing this rook into the game, and I'm going to be trying to finish my development and, of course, put pressure on these passed pawns that my opponent has, which have become kind of a nuisance for me, a little bit of a headache here. So I have to spend some time working on them. bishop to d6 is a very interesting move. Simply moving the bishop out of the way, but I didn't think this was a smart idea because here I can just take the pawn. The idea after bishop d6, I think, is honestly kind of creative because it's allowing the move queen to g4 check, which would be a queen trade. But my opponent is realizing here that after the move g5, black has enough counterplay in order to equalize and make a draw, or even win the game, because a rook is not actually that much at the end of the day. But I realized that too, and I saw something my opponent missed. My opponent is giving up this pawn, but his motive for doing so and his reasoning for doing so is that he thinks that he's going to get a good amount of pressure on my king with moves like rook to d8 or rook to h8, and he thinks that this is also a decent idea. But I think he didn't realize one thing, and that after the move rook to g6, rook takes g6, actually white is also again threatening the move queen to g4, and he has to be scared of this now because this is only a single pawn, and one pawn isn't really going to cut it in this game, so my opponent will have to really take care of that. So what my opponent does is what any normal person would do, and plays the move king e7. And this is the start of more complications. There's a lot of complications in this game, watch out. Here I have to find another move. Rook to g7 check is the way to go. After king to f8, I'm winning after the move rook to g4, queen h6, and now I play the move knight d2, which is very nice, sacrificing knight with a checkmate on the way, which I could have found if I spent a little bit more time, but I decided that, okay, I don't see any problem with the move knight d2. I need to develop my knight anyway, so I'm going to do it, and I play the move knight d2 after not that much thought. Now, king f7 is the move chosen, hitting my rook out of the way, which makes sense. I'm forced to go back to a less active square. I choose the g4 square because, of course, it hits the queen. It comes with tempo, and after the queen moves out of the way, I'm going to have good pressure, good play with the knight coming up here, hitting the bishop and the pawn, which was my main idea in the position. Queen to h6 comes targeting, hitting my knight on d2. I have to make a move. I go knight e4, and I'm still thinking here that I'm winning the game, but everything's about to go wrong for the 18th time in a row in this game. And after the move rook h8, you can see that I'm in a lot of pressure now. Now this is starting to boil up to a threat. My opponent is immediately threatening this move, queen h1. Not exactly, actually. Sorry. Kind of fainting at a threat of queen h1 because there might be some issues with this rook that's undeveloped in the corner, and I was already starting to see ghosts in this position with queen h1 on the horizon and me not having the most ideal position. But either way, I am able to play the move knight takes d6, trading off one of my opponent's active pieces, and after c takes d6, I am kind of in time to do whatever I want. I go with the move rook e1, which I thought was the best move, simply getting my rook into the game, which it needs to do by now. And after queen h1, I think that this is a Hail Mary. I think, okay, what my opponent is doing, he is just giving me the queen exchange. Now I'm going to win the game. Queen takes h1, rook takes h1, and rook g1. I thought that his whole point was that, okay, if I missed that the queen was hanging, maybe he would have, I don't know, something. But no, I'm not that bad at the game. And I'm now simply up an exchange in a pretty easy endgame to win. But it quickly becomes less than that. Rook h2, rook g2 is the right idea. Rook h1, king f2, rook h5. He can never get into a rook endgame. Rook versus knight endgame, because that is very, very easily winning. But what he's going to work on now is that I don't have much time on the clock, and after rook eg1, which I thought was kind of an interesting move, trying to infiltrate here, threatening check over on that side of the board, and move king e6, I'm not in time to do what I want. I play the move rook g7 though, attacking the pawn. My opponent kind of surprises me here. I thought he was going to be playing the move knight to a5, and I don't even know why I thought this. I just thought knight a5 was probably the best move. I don't even know why. It's obviously not the best move because I have the move b4. That's what I had planned. But then my opponent goes b6, and for some reason I didn't look at this move, and it's already so terrifying. I go with rook e1 check, king to d5, and I go rook to f7, but now I've blundered rook h2 check. And although I'm still winning, now I'm going to be losing some pawns over on this side of the board, and my opponent is getting counterplay for the first time in their entire life. Also, one other thing to keep note of, I have a 2-minute time disadvantage on the clock, and my opponent is coming down the board with a lot of pressure. I go king e3, rook takes b2, and I take on f6, but that's a mistake because my opponent is immediately able to get a ton of counterplay with the move knight to a5, which is a really nice move. And if I try to move my king closer, the knight is still coming to this square, and there's like mate threats all over, and it's very scary. Actually, in this position, that would not be correct, because after this move, I would have the move rook f5 check, and I would be able to win the knight. Got to keep you on your toes, got to keep me on my toes as well, because I also missed that during the analysis. Either way, rook takes f6, my opponent takes on a2, which is a mistake, and now I'm winning again if I find the move c4 check, forcing this, and after rook to c1, I'm able to pick up the knight, which is like very lucky, but I didn't see this, of course, because I'm an idiot. Here, actually, this would be a very interesting way to win the game. I play d5 check, and then I'm able to make a queen on time before my opponent can. This is very cool. Probably wouldn't have in the game. My opponent would resign before this, but it's pretty interesting. Either way, I go king d3 though, and my idea is, okay, now I'm threatening a checkmate. c4 is a threat of mate, and I thought at the end of the day, I mean, okay, I'm still open exchange. I feel like I'm doing very well in the position. I don't think my opponent has that much here. After the move knight a5 though, here's the real blunder, and this is when my position goes from okay but not entirely winning to worse. I go with the move rook e to e6. And as you can see from that eval bar, this is not a good move. This is not a good move at all, actually, because of the move knight to c4. And the reason why this didn't work in the first place, and the reason why I thought that I was going to be doing good here, was because I would have the move rook f5, kicking the king out of the way, and I would be picking up the knight. But not anymore, because of course now rook f5 would be losing the rook on e6. Which is why, in this position, I should have played the move rook to e7. But the reason why I didn't play this is because I thought, well, what's the point? My opponent is just able to play like anything. For example, knight b3 I thought was okay, but here I'm just completely winning. I'm just completely winning. It's a little bit stupid of what I was doing here, but I just thought that this was just a very simple way of winning the game. Either way, rook to e6, knight c4, and I'm forced to play the move rook e2, the only move in the position, allowing checks with the knight, but I thought that maybe I'd be able to survive them, and life would be continuing to be good. Knight to b2, I end up playing the wrong move here. I played the wrong move here, which is the move king to e3, which is very scary. The move knight d1 caught my eye here, and I thought, okay, my opponent's picking up the pawn, and I was very scared that this was probably losing for white, because my opponent can trade the rook. After this move, they can trade the rook and then pick up this pawn. And I was really unsure if I was actually able to draw this position, so I was getting very nervous here. I go king e3. My opponent decides here not to take the pawn, or the rook for that matter, and instead goes with knight b2 and offers kind of a repetition of moves. But after I saw that king e3 was a problem, now I go with king d2, which I thought was the best move. And after the move knight c4 and king e1, I was just saying, okay, well, now you can't win the pawn. I'm going to be okay. Life is good. But now rook a1, king f2, and rook to c1. And oh my god, this is terrifying. This is very scary. There are threats like all over the board. The main threat, though, is that these two pawns are going to become monsters in the end game. And also, the real big problem with this position is that I only have 40 seconds on the clock, and I have a lot more chess to play. I go with this rook f5 check first, kicking the king back, and then I play the move rook f3, defending the pawn. And after the move a5, I realize that my position is actually very, very dire here, with this pawn becoming just monstrous. And I didn't even know how to defend this position. I thought that I was just losing at this point, but with the 30 seconds on the clock, they gave me hope to play faster. But maybe that hope was not valid. I go king g3. Idea being I want to get my king in somehow. I just want to get any sort of counterplay. I want to not lose the game, so I want to try to do something. Move a4 happens. I have 27 seconds on the clock. I go with the move rook to a2, but now after the move a3, black is officially winning the game. What I had to do here is very, very silly. I had to play the move rook to e1. Rook to e1. And after rook c2, we would repeat moves with this. And for some reason, a rook trade is actually just a draw. I guess because my rook is able to guard the second rank and I'm able to do good there, but realistically, this is very hard to play with 20 seconds on the clock. I was very unsure of everything, so I decided to go with this king g3 idea. I bring my rook over to a2 for some reason. I guess I was preventing the move rook a8, rook a1, sorry. Rook a2, a3, I go king f4. I go king back to g3 because I don't have anything else to do. I have 18 seconds, and the position is just looking more and more terrible the more I look at it. Rook g1 check, I go king f2. Rook to h1, I'm forced to go king to g2 to disallow this check, which would be picking up the rook over here. Rook to d1, and now I make a series of mistakes. Rook f5, king e4, and rook to f3, and at this point, I don't even know what I'm doing anymore. Knight e3, king g3 is a miss. I have to go rook takes e3, and now this position is a draw. This is a little bit easier of a draw. I can find this, but I don't want to play this. Like, this is with 16 seconds on the clock. No, this is very tricky. Probably have to go here and do something with rook to c8. But I mean, looking at this position here, even this position is still not an easy draw by any stretch of the imagination, and I'm a little bit scared. Either way, king g3. My opponent goes rook g1 check, and after the move king h2, I can't play this move because of rook g2, and I would be losing this rook, which of course is not very good. So I have to play king h2. My opponent goes rook to c1. I have to play knight takes c3 again. Also, my rook is hanging in this scenario. Like everything is hanging. I have to play knight rook takes e3 again, and then I get the same position, but I miss it, and instead I play rook g3, blundering a fork on the board. And I'm losing again. There's no draw this time. There's no like saving grace. I'm just losing. King g2, knight takes g3, king takes g3, and rook takes c3, and 9 seconds on the clock is not enough to defend any position, much less this one. King f2, king takes d4, and I'm starting to panic. My opponent has more than enough time to win this game. There's nothing I can do. I'm just sitting back kind of waiting for the game to end, but I'm still playing the game. Rook d2, rook d3, rook a2. I'm moving my rook, shuffling it around. I go around to the other side, rook to e8, and here is when I'm able to make the thumbnail shot after the move king to d2. But something you wouldn't notice about this is that now I'm up on time, and after my next move, I win the game, which is pretty funny. And so this was a very funny game. Yeah, I started in just a completely winning position. After queen h5 on move 5, I was already +1 and I was winning a piece. Well, winning an exchange, I guess. And it really went out of control. From being completely lost on move 10 to being back in the game and completely winning over on like move 15. Still completely winning in the time scramble, but in the end of the day, like, this is just I mean, Yeah, this game was decided on time, with both players actually. The time trouble of me was probably one of the biggest factors of the game, of my play, and I don't want any more games like this. I really don't want to play games like this. I don't want to. I don't want to be like praying my opponent is gonna time out. I hate winning like that. I do like winning though, and yeah, that's it though. That's all I've got for you today. I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys found this entertaining, instructive, all of the above. If you did, remember to like, subscribe. Don't normally YouTubers tell you to do. And yeah, that's it. Good evening and good night.